What's up, YouTube? It's your boy JP's on the keys, and there's two. Each one of the video today, we have Napoleon's Marshals, Part 4. Let's just get it. No further ado. Don't drop no delay. Just boom.
Terror belli, decus pacis. Terror in war, ornament in peace. The words inscribed on every French marshal's baton. In France, the title of Marshal, or Maréchal, goes back at least to the 13th century. It represents the highest possible position of military authority. Authority symbolized by a marshal's baton. The title was abolished during the French Revolution as incompatible with the egalitarian spirit of the age. But in 1804, Napoleon founded a new empire, and
I feel like this will be like, I won't have to talk as much, considering how these generals will be better. Like, it won't be a whole lot of like Napoleon. It won't be a whole lot of generals that Napoleon's just gonna roast all over the day, like a Murat, or I forgot what a Murat, or the one that he exiled back to Finland, or it was Finland, the one that got exiled to Finland and then became the leader of Finland and then fought against Napoleon. Like that guy. I forgot what his name was, but y'all know what I'm talking about.
Restored the ancient rank. This is Epic History TV's guide to Napoleon's Marshals. All 26 have been ranked according to our own evaluation of their achievements as marshals, with expert guidance from Lieutenant Colonel Rémy Porte, former chief historian of the French army. So far, we've met Marshals Pérignon, Brune, Serrurier, Kellerman, Grouchy, Moncey, Poniatowski, Jourdan, Bernadotte, Augereau, Lefebvre, Mortier, Marmont, Saint-Cyr, Oudinot, Victor and Murat. Who could be a more fitting video sponsor than Napoleon's quality duets Napoleon and visit to be in power? Bessières. 9. Marshal Bessières. Jean-Baptiste Bessières was the son of a surgeon, with a relatively prosperous upbringing in southwestern France. When the French Revolution began, he volunteered for the National Guard and was sent to Paris to join the King's Constitutional Guard, along with his old school friend Joachim Murat. This unit was soon disbanded, but Bessières remained in Paris and was among the soldiers defending the Tuileries Palace when it was stormed by the mob on the 10th of August 1792. In the aftermath, he needed to get out of Paris in a hurry, so he volunteered to fight on the Pyrenees front. His bravery and good sense won him a commission in the 22nd Chasseurs, and he distinguished himself at the Battle of Boulou. Transferred to Italy, his friendship with Murat got him noticed by the army commander, General Bonaparte, who was impressed enough to make him commander of his new bodyguard, known as Les Guides de Bonaparte. Bessières distinguished himself as a cavalry commander in Italy, and later Egypt, winning promotion to brigadier and loyally supporting Napoleon at every turn. He became one of the few men that Napoleon regarded as a true friend. When Napoleon became first consul of France in 1799, he rewarded Bessières with command of the elite Consular Guard cavalry, which he led with devastating effect at Marengo the next year. In 1804, Bessières became a marshal, less for any great military achievement than for being a loyal member of Napoleon's inner circle.
I see how he's really one of the few people that Napoleon really never had like a, I see that he's never had like a big falling out, because usually all the ones before, it was they did something to Napoleon, or Napoleon he had some type of ill will, or it was like a, you know, you were a good marshal, but as a dude, as a person, as a man, nah, I hate you as a man, but as a marshal, I respect you. You know what I'm saying? That's always like you respect the art, and you leave the person. Like obviously this man respected the art and respected the person. So it's good that he was actually able to get on Napoleon's good side, because there wasn't too many people that actually got on his good side. Because even if you were winning battles, sometimes he would find something. He would.
Bessieres himself was well-liked, kind, well-mannered and generous, a pious Catholic and social conservative who liked to powder his hair in the old style. His young wife, Marie-Jeanne, was also a favourite at court, doted on by Napoleon and Empress Josephine. In 1805, Bessieres commanded the Imperial Guard. In December that year, at the Battle of Austerlitz, he played a crucial role repelling the Russian Guard at the battle's climax. At Eylau in 1807, his squadrons supported Murat's mass cavalry charge and made their own disciplined attacks to cover his withdrawal. However, Bessieres' opportunities for glory were limited. Napoleon always held the Guard back as his last reserve, as at Friedland. In 1808, Bessieres received his first major independent command in northern Spain. That May, the country erupted in revolt against the French. Bessieres reacted quickly and decisively, securing key towns and roads. He then attacked Spanish forces at Medina de Rioseco, winning a crushing victory against an enemy that outnumbered him 2-1. But once the immediate crisis had passed, he hesitated and failed to exploit his victory. When Napoleon arrived in Spain, Bessieres was given command of the reserve cavalry, a role he retained for the war against Austria in 1809.
Yo, so he basically got demoted? Did he get demoted? I mean, because he was already, he basically got demoted for not showing initiative, basically. So he was leading the Guard, and then you know what? You had a chance. I'm gonna put you down to reserve. Like those in the you're just waiting in the back just in case everything goes. If all those fails, I just spit. Excuse me. If all those fails, just boom, rush in from the back. Pause.
In May, Bessieres and his cavalry were among the first across the Danube, with Massena occupying the village of Aspern on his left and Lannes holding Essling on the right. When the Austrian commander, Archduke Charles, launched a massive and unexpected counterattack, Bessieres, outnumbered 4-1, made a series of desperate charges, helping to save the army from disaster. It came at a high cost. Bessieres and his cavalry performed bravely. But that night, a long-running feud with Marshal Lannes nearly came to blows when Lannes accused Bessieres of hanging back. The matter went no further, as Lannes was fatally wounded the next day. Bessieres commanded the cavalry again at Wagram, leading a major attack to cover Massena's redeployment to the left wing. As the charge began, a cannonball killed Bessieres' horse and injured his leg.
That's tough. You gotta think about that. You fall in a 2,000-pound horse. All that pressure is on your leg, because most likely your feet are already in the little stirrups, the spur things. You know what I'm saying? The things where you put your feet. They're called like stirrups or spurs, or the spurs on the back, like the stirrups, whatever them Jones is called. And the horse just fall right on your leg. Ooh, that's I know. Legs daggone near broke from that.
A rumour reached the Imperial Guard that Bessieres was dead. Some old veterans began to weep for their old commander, until they were assured he was only wounded. That was quite a cannonball, Napoleon told Bessieres. It reduced my guard to tears. As a devout Catholic, Bessieres was critical of Napoleon's divorce from Empress Josephine, leading to a short spell out of favour. In 1811, he was sent back to Spain to command the Army of the North. He found an impossible situation: a widespread insurgency and insufficient troops and supplies. He wrote bluntly to Napoleon, stating that the French must give up territory, something the Emperor would never allow.
You gonna ask Napoleon to give up territory? That's like asking Steph Curry to stop shooting three-pointers. Like, that's not gonna work, bro. It's not gonna work. Come on. This man was already on a worldwide domination mission, and you're gonna tell him, you might want to slow down on the land conquering. Come on now.
For all his piety and refined manners, Bessieres ordered his share of executions and reprisals in his attempt to pacify northern Spain, brutal methods used by many French commanders in this conflict. Later that year, he joined forces with Marshal Massena's army of Portugal to take on Wellington's army at the Battle of Fuentes de Oñoro, but was widely blamed for refusing to send in his cavalry to support Massena's attacks. Unfortunately for Napoleon, this was typical of how many marshals behaved in his absence. They'd rather watch another marshal fail than help them to win all the glory.
You notice, I've noticed this is like the third time that Bessieres has like failed to capitalize on the opportunity to jump on the enemy. Like he's held back. He's like, you know what, we're not gonna bring out our reserves. We're gonna let those. That's definitely like some type of, like, at that point, I feel like if you're already fighting in an army in a war that you don't even know if you're gonna survive, like, I feel like you should already be like balls to the wall. We're throwing everything out, like obviously strategically, of course, but like, why are we reserving men when there's probably new men enlisting every day in the military? You got to think, man. You're trying to eradicate your enemy. You can't just you hold back and then you're letting another general just get his unit get destroyed because you just want to see him fail. Like, you're on the same team.
In 1812, Bessieres accompanied Napoleon into Russia, commanding his Guard cavalry. Since the Guard was kept in reserve, he saw little action until the retreat, when he led the advance guard, clearing a path for the survivors. The disaster in Russia left Bessieres severely demoralized, but he was resolved to do his duty, now serving once more as Napoleon's cavalry commander, in Marshal Murat's absence. On the 1st of May 1813, Bessieres was scouting enemy positions before the Battle of Lützen, when a cannonball hit him in the chest, killing him instantly. His death robbed Napoleon of a dependable commander and one of his last remaining friends. "It is surely a great loss for you and your children," Napoleon wrote to his widow, "but an even greater one for me." 8. Marshal MacDonald.
Good and brave, but unlucky.
Jacques MacDonald's father was a Scotsman who'd supported Bonnie Prince Charlie's bid to seize the British throne in 1745. After this ended in defeat at Culloden, the family fled to France. Inspired by tales of the Trojan War, MacDonald chose a military life and became a lieutenant in Dillon's Irish Regiment, a French unit made up mostly of Irish émigrés. In the Revolutionary Wars, he won a reputation as a hard-working, intelligent and brave officer, and served as aide-de-camp to General Dumouriez, commanding the Army of the North. He distinguished himself in that general's famous victory at Jemappes, paving the way for rapid promotion from lieutenant to general in just 2 years. He led his division well during campaigns in Holland and Germany, and formed a close bond with one of France's most successful commanders of this period, General Moreau. In 1798, he was sent to Rome as governor, and later commanded the army of Naples. Summoned north the following year to reinforce Moreau's army of Italy, he was nearly killed in a skirmish with Austrian cavalry, and while still suffering from his wounds, his army was defeated at the Trebia by a larger coalition force commanded by the great Russian general Suvorov. But MacDonald's own conduct won approval from General Bonaparte, among others. Later that year, he assisted Napoleon's seizure of power in the coup of 18 Brumaire, ensuring the loyalty of the troops at Versailles. He was rewarded with an army command in Switzerland, and that winter led his men through the Alps to attack the Austrians in Italy.
See, if I'm not talking much, it's just like I'm sitting here just trying to listen, because obviously it's not a whole bunch of stuff like I can pick at. Like, I'm learning too. So like this is my school outside of school, because like, you know what I'm saying, I'm done for the semester. So, you know, I'm still trying to keep my mind sharp, you know what I'm saying? So I'm learning as much as you. So if I don't talk, if I don't pause as much, you know, so it is what it is. I mean, some people say I pause too much. Well, this might be the video for you then. I don't know.
His march was far more challenging and dangerous than Napoleon's, but was never immortalized in quite the same way. In 1804, MacDonald's former commander, General Moreau, was arrested and charged with involvement in a plot to assassinate Napoleon. MacDonald stood up for his friend's reputation, an act of loyalty typical of the man, but disastrous for his career.
Yo, you're bold. He's extremely bold. Yo, you're bold. This man literally, your former general has been arrested for his part in a conspiracy plot to kill your current general, and you side with the former general versus the guy who is. I understand the loyalty part. I understand that's your man's. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be loyal to your man's because he used to be a general. But bro, like sometimes you just gotta let him. You gotta let him take one. Let him take that L. You know what I'm saying? Let him take that L. Like, you jeopardizing your whole military career. I understand it's your man's, but bruh, I don't know. That's look. I don't know. Napoleon ain't like him after that. I know that.
Moreau was exiled. MacDonald was placed under police surveillance and retired to his country estate in disgrace.
Hey, yo,
5 years passed before Napoleon, desperate for experienced senior commanders, asked him to serve as military advisor to his 27-year-old stepson, Prince Eugene, now commanding the army of Italy. MacDonald and Eugene worked well together, driving back the Austrians, and by an awesome feat of marching, joined Napoleon near Vienna in time for the Battle of Wagram. The second day of the battle was MacDonald's moment. Entrusted by the Emperor with the main attack on the enemy centre, he formed his troops into a giant, open-backed square and advanced into a hail of fire. Napoleon, watching through his telescope, exclaimed several times, "What a brave man! What a brave man!" MacDonald's costly attack helped to secure a great victory.
So when you translation, when that means brave, that means you're ridiculously crazy. You got no concern for life. That's what brave in military term means. Brave means, what the heck are you doing? Like, what the hell are you doing? You're gonna get yourself killed. But hey, you know what? If you come on top, that's bravery.
The next day, Napoleon went to find him on the battlefield and greeted him with the words, "Let us be friends from now. You have acted valiantly and given me the greatest services. On the battlefield of your glory, where I owe you so large a part of yesterday's success, title Duke of Taranto and a large pension." But as time would prove, his loyalty remained to France, not to Napoleon. MacDonald spent an unhappy year and MacDonald's army was routed. Thousands of his new conscripts surrendered or deserted. Hundreds were driven into the river itself. MacDonald took full responsibility for the disaster, though his lack of cavalry and some bad luck were also to blame. Napoleon certainly continued to respect MacDonald's military judgment. He continued to command 11th Corps and was in the thick of the fighting at Leipzig 2 months later. MacDonald was with the rear guard when the French retreat began and was shocked to see the chaos that engulfed the army. When the Elster Bridge was blown too early, he himself was trapped on the wrong side of the river and just managed to swim to safety under enemy fire.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that when I was doing the Napoleon series. Like they were getting chased, and like they had to burn the bridge behind them, and they left some of their own Frenchmen on the, and then they got destroyed by the I forgot. It was the armies from all like 6 countries that had formed together to get Napoleon. Like, just imagine that. You're trying to escape from the enemy. You're getting bullets are whizzing, like musket balls are whizzing past your ear. Cannonballs are right over your head. You hear galloping. You hear horses galloping towards you, and then your only route of escape gets burned down, and now you have to swim across probably a cold river while avoiding bullets. And you're basically sitting ducks to the enemy, who can just sit there and just sit there and just scope you out. Just scope you out like you're just sitting there swimming.
MacDonald continued to serve Napoleon as a loyal and reliable commander throughout the 1814 campaign, effectively serving as his deputy at several key moments. Unlike most marshals, MacDonald was never under Napoleon's spell, and always spoke his mind to the Emperor. This in itself was a valuable service, though it sometimes led to heated arguments.
Of course.
Perhaps inevitably, in April, it was MacDonald and Ney who took the lead in confronting Napoleon with the facts of his situation. The war was lost, and he must abdicate. Napoleon named MacDonald as one of the 3 men who would negotiate with the Allies, telling his foreign minister, the Marquis de Caulaincourt, "MacDonald does not like me, but he is a man of his word, of high principles, and he can be relied on." In their last meeting, a few days later, Napoleon told MacDonald, "I did not know you well. I was prejudiced against you. I have done so much for so many others who have abandoned me. And you, who owe me nothing, have remained faithful. I appreciate your loyalty. Too late."
Well, at least he appreciated it in like at all. You know what I'm saying? That's how. At least people understand what you were trying to do for him. Maybe it might be too late, but at least they did. You know what I'm saying? You gotta give Napoleon credit for swallowing his pride and admitting to him, you know what? I respect you. I respect what you did. You've always been loyal to me, even though you've never like been in debt for me. You've never like been under my thumb. I like that. You know what I'm saying? I like when you show respect to people who deserve it.
MacDonald was kept on as a military advisor by France's restored Bourbon monarchy. He continued to speak his mind, so much so that Louis XVIII nicknamed him his outspokenness. During the 100 Days, MacDonald remained loyal to the king and attempted to rally troops to fight against Napoleon. When he saw this was futile, he escorted the king to safety in Belgium, then returned to Paris, where he refused to meet with Napoleon. After the defeat at Waterloo, he was put in charge of demobilizing the last elements of Napoleon's Grande Armée, and helped many officers to escape arrest by the Bourbons. MacDonald was a methodical, reliable if unspectacular commander. But he distinguished himself above all by his lack of vanity or personal ambition, his complete loyalty to France, and his willingness to speak his mind, virtues that were all too rare among Napoleon's marshals.
Alright, so before we get to Massena, I want to talk about what he said about the war crimes. Like, you got to understand, getting people, like, war crimes is so freaking serious. You got, because I remember I was watching a Netflix doc, and it was about, like, all the German soldiers who got charged after the war. Like, dudes was getting life sentences and death sentences because of war crimes. You gotta think of how serious that is of a charge. Like war crime, you're killing a whole bunch of people. You committed treason. You committed murder. You've stolen land. You've done all this. You've robbery, burning down buildings, vandalism. You gotta think think of all the years that those charges carry, and then the charges just disappear. Nothing happened. You go into society as a regular person. Just like, you know what I'm saying? Just like the one thing with Ivan the Terrible. They tried to come when he was like one of the leaders in World War II. He was one of the biggest, one of the meanest persons in like in the execution camps in the Holocaust for the Jews. And like, this is 40 years later, and they were still trying to charge him because they thought that this man was Ivan the Terrible, and I found out that he wasn't even Ivan the Terrible. It was a whole bunch of people saying, "Oh, I saw him. I remember him. I saw his face. He was the one. He looked at me when he put me in the gas chamber." Like, just think about how serious that is. You know what I'm saying?
7. Marshal Massena.
He came alive and was surrounded by danger. When defeated, he was always ready to begin again.
André Massena was born in Nice, at that time not technically part of France, but of the Kingdom of Piedmont-Sardinia. His father, a shopkeeper, died when he was young, so he ran away to sea, then at 17 enlisted in the French army. He was quickly made a sergeant, but a commoner could rise no higher in the Royal Army, so after 14 years' service he quit. When the French Revolution began, he re-enlisted in a local volunteer battalion. Massena, supremely self-confident and unfazed by any challenge, was elected to command the battalion and led it with success against the Austrians on the Piedmontese front. Despite his lack of education, he proved an instinctive combat leader. He was soon promoted to brigadier, and after leading a successful attack at the Siege of Toulon, was made General of Division.
So let me get this straight. This man serves for 14 years. He quits because he reached top rank and he can't rank up anymore. Then it said he was born in 1758 or something like that. In 1791, he was 33. He re-enlisted and then became a general in 2 years. Think of the story. Like, look at the story with that. Like, that's great. You only get up to a sergeant in 14 years of service to re-enlisting at like 33 years old and then becoming a general in 2 years.
He won an impressive victory over the Austrians at Loarno in 1795, and when the Army of Italy's commander, General Scherer, resigned over lack of support from the government in Paris, many expected Massena to replace him. Instead, the job went to the 26-year-old General Bonaparte. 11 years younger and much less experienced than Massena, but with far better political connections. Nevertheless, Napoleon and Massena worked together brilliantly. Massena commanded his advance guard and played a major role in several of his early victories. In reports, Napoleon described Massena as active, tireless, audacious. He won so many battles that Napoleon acclaimed him l'enfant gâté de la victoire, the spoiled child of victory. Massena was, however, notorious for extorting vast sums from the local Italians, often while his own troops went hungry and without pay. In 1798, Massena received his first independent command, the Army of Switzerland. The next spring, after French defeats on the Rhine, and in Italy, responsibility for the defence of France lay in his hands. Rather than wait to be encircled, he attacked, and won a brilliant victory over Austrian and Russian forces at the Battle of Zurich. Rewarded with command of the Army of Italy, Massena led a heroic defence of Genoa in 1800. He was eventually starved into surrender, but his stubborn defence bought Napoleon enough time to cross the Alps and defeat the Austrians at Marengo. Physically exhausted by this last ordeal and surrounded by accusations of corruption, Massena was recalled to Paris and went into semi-retirement. When he was made a Marshal by Napoleon in 1804, he seemed distinctly underwhelmed, and on being congratulated remarked, "There are 14 of us."
Oh my goodness. Yo, he's savage. Yo, he said, if this is such a high honor, why is it 14 other people? Yo, this man is a savage. That man did not care at all, had no chill.
But Massena was one of the few marshals who'd proved themselves in independent command, making him a priceless asset to Napoleon. In 1805 he was recalled to active service and given command of the Army of Italy in the war against the Third Coalition. Massena kept Archduke Charles's army busy in Italy, while the Emperor won his great victories at Ulm and Austerlitz. In 1806, Massena oversaw the occupation of the Kingdom of Naples, ordering brutal reprisals against local resistance. In 1807, he commanded 5th Corps in Poland, but his role covering Warsaw meant he missed the major battles of Eylau and Friedland. Later that year, while out hunting with the Emperor and his entourage at Fontainebleau, he was accidentally shot in the face and lost the use of an eye. Napoleon, a notoriously bad shot, was to blame, but the loyal Marshal Berthier claimed responsibility.
This is so he lost his eye while they were out hunting. Ooh, wow, that's terrible.
The war against Austria.
But of course they're not going to blame Napoleon for that. Why would you? They're not going to blame Napoleon. Why would Napoleon? If people find out Napoleon shot his own marshal in the eye on accident, and what? Like, how are you supposed to be a soldier and you can't shoot a rifle? You know what I'm saying? See? That's how you protect his image.
In 1809 saw Massena back near his best. His corps formed the vanguard for the crossing of the Danube and fought ferociously to hold the village of Aspern against an overwhelming Austrian onslaught. Massena was everywhere, displaying his usual coolness under fire, and when ordered to retreat, ensured his troops pulled back across the river in good order. The battle was a defeat, but Massena had been superb. Together, he and the Emperor oversaw preparations for the next attempt to cross the Danube 6 weeks later. The Austrians were waiting for them at the Battle of Wagram. Because of a riding accident a few days earlier, Massena had to command his corps from a carriage. He made a fine target for Austrian gunners, but was still able to organize a complex redeployment of his corps at the height of the battle, covered by Marshal Bessieres' cavalry charge. Massena's bold maneuver secured the French left flank and won further praise from Napoleon. Massena, already ennobled as the Duke of Rivoli, received a new title, Prince of Essling, and another less welcome reward, command of French forces for the invasion of Portugal. Massena was deeply reluctant to go and complained bitterly about his appointment. He was showing clear signs of exhaustion and was plagued by rheumatism and bad lungs. When he arrived in Spain, General Foy observed, "He's only 52, but he looks more than 60. He's lost weight and has begun to stoop. His glance, since the accident in which he lost an eye, has lost its keenness."
Obviously.
His subordinates, already underwhelmed by his appearance, were outraged that the Marshal also decided to bring along his mistress, poorly disguised as an officer of dragoons.
Yo! Not only was this man in no shape to lead an army, he out here bringing the thotty with him. He brought the side thought with him. He brought the side chick with him. Oh my goodness. Yo, that's crazy. You gotta think, this one-eyed 60-year-old skinny man is trying to lead your army against Portugal. And he brings his side chick disguised as a military officer.
The French invasion of Portugal proved a disaster, undone by Wellington's scorched earth tactics, a hostile population and terrain, and Massena's own lethargic leadership. His corps commanders, especially Marshal Ney, were scathing of his conduct. At Busaco, Massena squandered lives with an unnecessary frontal attack on a strong British position. When he reached Lisbon, he found the city protected by new fortifications, the impregnable lines of Torres Vedras. Massena waited outside Lisbon for reinforcements that never came, while sickness and guerrilla raids took their toll on his army. 5 months later, he recrossed the mountains back into Spain, leaving a string of devastated villages behind him. The next summer, at Fuentes de Oñoro, Massena attacked Wellington's army once more, and despite much hard fighting, again failed to win a clear victory. He blamed Marshal Bessières for his lack of support. But the Emperor's patience was at an end. He sent Marshal Marmont to replace Massena, and when they next met, greeted him with the cutting words, "So, Prince of Essling, you are no longer Massena." Massena's health was now in steep decline. He never held a major command again, though he was recalled in 1813 to supervise a military district in southern France. He died after a long illness in 1817.
Ooh, Napoleon just shot him. Ooh, that's a low blow. He ain't no marshal. The Prince of Essling.
In his prime, Massena was a superb commander, incisive and dangerous. But he was past his best by the time he became a